mean, I'm 13 years old. I'm not here to party with you. I don't want to go to the clubs. Matter of fact, I'm too young to even be in here. Why you got me in clubs? There were a lot of things I seen and a lot of positions that I think I was put in where I had to make very, very tough decisions in my life about who I would be.
This isn't just a story. It's the real testimony from the explosive Sean Diddy Combs trial, as reported live by Inner City Press. The courtroom, ice cold, not a breath, not a cough. Total silence as the judge called the next witness. Then jaws dropped. Walking down that aisle was someone no one ever thought would be involved in this mess. Usher Raymond. Yeah, that Usher, the Grammy-winning king of R&B. But he wasn't there to sing a note or settle a label beef. No, he was about to spill secrets, deep, dark ones, from inside Diddy's empire. Secrets that have been hidden for years. For the longest time, Usher kept quiet, smiled in the spotlight, played his role, stayed in line. But now, with Diddy tangled in serious federal charges, trafficking, coercion, and running a twisted criminal operation, Usher is done holding it in. He's ready to talk. And what he says, it's been haunting him. From his early teen days under Diddy's wing, when he was just 14, to the disturbing things he came to understand later. Stuff that shines a light on the darkest corners of the entertainment game. This wasn't just another celebrity bombshell. This testimony could shake the entire industry. What Usher revealed wasn't only shocking, it was historic. He started by taking the courtroom back to the day his mom sat him down and told him he was moving to New York to live with Diddy. At just 14 years old, fresh off his first album, he was ready to level up. Everyone thought this was his golden ticket. L.A. Reid had set it all up, thinking Diddy's mentorship would make Usher a superstar overnight. But nobody had a clue what kind of world the teen was actually stepping into. I thought I was gonna learn how to be a star, Usher told the court, his voice calm but full of tension. What I saw instead were things no teenager should be around. His words cut through the silence like a knife. He described stepping into Diddy's Midtown Manhattan penthouse and being hit with a wave of chaos, champagne bottles laid out with breakfast like it was normal, strangers passed out in rooms he didn't even know were there, some faces he later recognized from magazines and TV, famous people just laying around, half-dressed or totally out of it. This wasn't a home, it was a wild, non-stop scene. And then came the name Flavor Camp. Usher said, I didn't know what that meant. I thought it was just branding. But with time, he learned the ugly truth. Flavor Camp wasn't about music. It was about indulgence and a lifestyle way too grown for a kid to handle. The courtroom was locked in. You could hear a pin drop as Usher kept pulling back the curtain. What was supposed to be a mentorship, it twisted fast into something way different. Usher said Diddy wasn't teaching him about music, stage presence, or vocals, none of that. Instead, he was pushed to soak up the lifestyle, the parties, the people, the chaos, and anytime he had questions, he was shut down quick. He told me, this is how we do it. You don't ask, you just watch. Learn by watching, that's how grown men roll. Usher recalled, his tone sharp. Then he dropped a moment that left the room frozen. One night, around 3 a.m., Usher said he woke up to strange noises, music playing low, candles flickering along the hallway, and then masked people walking into the apartment like it was normal. He followed the sounds into the living room, and what he saw shook him. It wasn't just sex, Usher said. There was structure to it, cameras, lists, and nobody looked surprised. He stood there trying to make sense of it. I thought maybe I had walked into a movie set, he admitted. But it wasn't a movie, it was real, too real. I remember thinking, I shouldn't be seeing this. Someone told him to go back to bed, so he did. But he didn't sleep a second that night. That was the turning point. That was the night everything changed for Usher. The night he stopped seeing Diddy as a mentor and started seeing something way darker. Usher's voice stayed steady, but what he said next hit hard. The jury leaned in as he talked about all the warnings he never got, not from his label, not from his mother, not even from the people in the industry who definitely knew what Diddy's world was really about. People thought Diddy was just eccentric, Usher explained. They didn't realize he had a type of power, quiet but total. If Diddy didn't mess with you, Your career hit a wall. If he did, you were expected to keep your mouth shut. That was the trade-off. Usher then dropped the chilling truth: he wasn't the only one. There were others, young artists just like him, promised fame, fast success, but slowly pulled into Diddy's world in ways they didn't even recognize at first. He didn't name names yet, but made it clear and more voices are coming. There were people around us who saw, he said, assistants, drivers, other musicians. Everybody acted like it was normal. But deep down, they knew. The adults failed us. Then came a moment that turned the whole courtroom cold. Usher described a private trip to the Caribbean when he was just 15. Diddy had invited him, made it sound like a relaxing retreat, just the two of them and a couple others. But even in that paradise setting, something didn't feel right, and Usher made it clear that trip was not what it appeared to be. Usher's voice dropped lower as he recalled the so-called retreat in the Caribbean. The place was isolated, no press, no cameras, he said, and that's when it hit me. I wasn't there to learn anything about music. He paused, letting the weight of his words hang in the air. I won't go into everything, he added, carefully choosing his next line. But what I will say is, I wasn't given a choice about the environment I was placed in, and it took me years to understand just how deep the manipulation ran. The courtroom dead silent, and after that trip, everything shifted. Usher told the court that Diddy's vibe turned cold and controlling. His grip tightened. New people kept showing up, more parties, more rules, and anytime Usher so much as questioned anything, even a little, Diddy reminded him who held the strings. He told me, "You don't bite the hand that feeds you. Remember who gave you this life," Usher recalled. Then Usher locked eyes with Diddy from the witness stand and delivered a line that shook the room. "You didn't give me this life, though you gave me nightmares." And just when it seemed like he couldn't drop another bomb, he did. He told the jury that at 16, he was handed a contract with a confidentiality clause buried inside. It was dressed up like a regular NDA, something to protect Bad Boy Records' internal dealings. But Usher now believes that clause was never about business. It was about keeping people quiet, permanently. Usher went on to break down the fine print of that contract, and it stunned the courtroom. He claimed it included very specific language about keeping quiet on private events and maintaining total discretion. At the time, I didn't even know what half the words meant, he told the court. My mom had to co-sign, and the label's lawyers brushed it off, said it was just standard stuff. But years later, he saw it for what it really was. That was a contract to shut me up, Usher said, his tone sharp. I signed it because I trusted them. That signature, it bought my silence for years. He wasn't allowed to talk about the parties, the guests, the behavior, nothing. They told me it would ruin the brand, but what about what it did to me? He asked, his voice rising. And then the courtroom heard how that very clause came back to haunt him. In 2009, Usher was getting ready for an interview with a major publication. But once the questions started digging deeper, getting personal, everything changed. I got a call from Bad Boy's old legal team, he said. They reminded me about the NDA, told me we hope you're not trying to jeopardize your reputation. Usher never went through with the interview, but the pressure wasn't just legal, it got darker. He said people connected to Diddy's inner circle, folks he hadn't heard from in years, started reaching out. The message was clear: keep quiet or else. You think you've walked away from that world, Usher said, staring straight ahead, but it never walks away from you. His words echoed through the courtroom. And if you step out of line, the consequences don't just hit your career, they can hit your safety too. Then came a moment that left everyone stunned. Usher reached into a folder and pulled out a copy of the NDA. The judge allowed it into evidence. A document that once looked like basic industry paperwork now read like something much darker. It had cold, calculated language, strict clauses about audio, visual documentation, and bans on unauthorized reproduction. But in the context of what Diddy's been accused of, including rumors of his so-called freak-off video collection, those words suddenly hit different. Usher's voice cracked. That document made me feel like I was losing my mind for years, he said quietly. Like everything I saw, everything I felt wasn't even real because I wasn't allowed to say it out loud. Then he dropped another moment that had mostly flown under the radar until now, a lesser-known incident from 1996. Usher was 17 when Diddy invited him to an exclusive mansion party in Atlanta. He thought it was just another industry gathering, but what he walked into changed everything. Diddy was in full host mode. The house packed with celebrities, models, and strange men who didn't seem to have any ties to music at all. The place was massive, luxury everywhere, marble floors, tight security at every entrance, and a DJ spinning until the sun came up. But it wasn't the music that stuck with Usher, it was what came after. It wasn't the flashy lifestyle that haunted Usher the most. It was what was hidden behind it. He told the courtroom about one moment burned into his memory forever, the secret room. He remembered Diddy leaning in, whispering something to one of the guards. Then, without a word, the man unlocked a door tucked in the back of the mansion. Diddy turned to Usher and smirked, saying, "You're not ready for that yet." But curiosity got the best of him. Usher peeked in anyway. What he saw left him speechless. "There were people in masks," he said. "That's all I'll say." His voice was low but firm. "I didn't even understand what I was looking at." Then he dropped a line that made people in the courtroom visibly shift in their seats. "I think that night changed me," Usher confessed. "I saw things I still can't explain. I don't know if it was legal, but I know it wasn't right." And just when it felt like the tension couldn't rise any higher, Usher pulled out something deeply personal. Photocopied pages from a journal he'd been keeping since 1998. At first, it was just for writing down lyrics and thoughts, but over time, it became a vault, a place to store the memories, the strange encounters, the things he couldn't say out loud. He read from one entry dated March 1999, "Had dinner with Diddy and 3 execs I didn't know." That's all it said, but the silence after he read it said everything. "They kept going on about loyalty," Usher read from his journal. "Said loyalty keeps you on tour. Honesty puts you back home." Then he paused, looking down. Diddy laughed when he said it. Another journal entry, dated October 2000, described a Thursday night invite, one Usher turned down. "Too many secrets, too many masks," he had written. "Diddy says it's just the culture. I don't agree." The prosecutor leaned in. "Did you ever tell anyone about these entries?" Usher shook his head slowly. "Number, I was afraid of losing everything. I didn't think anybody would believe me." Then came the question everyone in the room was waiting for: why share it now? Usher looked straight ahead. "Because I've lived with it long enough, and it's time the truth comes out." His voice held steady as he leaned into the mic and dropped a moment he'd never even told his closest friends. It was 1997. Usher was just 18. He said Diddy invited him to Miami to meet a very powerful music investor, someone with serious money who could supposedly fund Usher's first world tour and take his career to the next level. "I thought it was about business," Usher said. "Diddy hyped it like this was the biggest break of my life." But what Usher didn't know was that this so-called meeting would leave him questioning everything he thought he knew about success, power, and trust. Usher said Diddy told him, "Dress up, look sharp, and be polite." He thought he was about to make a major career move. But when he arrived at the penthouse suite in the luxury Setai Hotel in Miami, what he walked into felt nothing like a business meeting. 3 older men were lounging in robes, sipping expensive champagne like it was water. Several young women sat silently in the background, barely making eye contact. One of the men, who Usher said was from overseas, looked him straight in the eye and asked, "Do you want to be remembered forever?" Usher told the courtroom he wasn't talking about music. Then came the chilling part. Diddy left him alone in that room with the men. "I felt trapped," Usher said, his voice tightening. "They didn't touch me, but one of them placed a hand on my shoulder and said, 'You can stay or you can leave, but you'll never get another invitation like this again.'" Usher chose to walk out, and that's when everything changed. Soon after, he was suddenly removed from a major tour opportunity. A well-known producer backed out of a project with no explanation. Nobody ever said it was because I left that suite, Usher admitted. But after that night, doors that were always open to me slammed shut. Then he dropped one last unsettling detail. Usher said Diddy once showed him a disturbing video clip recorded on a handheld camera. What was on it? He didn't say yet, but his face said enough. A few weeks after that Miami incident, Usher said Diddy laughed while replaying a handheld video clip. He thought it was funny, Usher said quietly. But what was on the screen? It chilled him. The footage showed another young artist doing something that, in Usher's words, I know he wouldn't have agreed to unless someone made him. The courtroom went silent. Did Diddy threaten you? The attorney asked. Usher took a breath. He didn't have to, he replied. The people around him did. They didn't need words. They used silence and exile. That was the turning point. Usher said it hit him. This wasn't about talent anymore. Staying famous in Diddy's world wasn't about music. It was about submission. Then the lights in the courtroom dimmed slightly, cameras locking in on Usher's face. His tone shifted. It got personal. This is the hardest part, he said, because now it's not about me anymore. What came next left the entire room stunned. Usher opened up about the early rise of Justin Bieber, how he had co-signed him, mentored him, helped launch his career. At first it was all good, Usher said. I wanted to be the big brother I never had. But then Diddy stepped in. According to Usher, Diddy started calling Bieber up, inviting him to parties, and used the same exact term from years earlier, flavor camp. That phrase that once sounded like innocent branding now carried a dark, twisted weight. He was just 15, Usher told the courtroom, and they were already treating him like a grown man. The year was 2011. Usher said he got a late-night call from Justin Bieber, but at first there was no talking, just silence and breathing. Then he said, I want to come home, Usher recalled. His team immediately tried to track Bieber down, but for 2 full days he vanished. No calls, no texts, just silence. When they finally met again, something was different. Bieber wouldn't even look Usher in the eye. All he said was, it's fine, I'm good now. But he wasn't, Usher told the jury. I knew he wasn't. That moment drove Usher to confront Diddy face to face. He didn't hold back. I asked him straight up, what are you doing to these kids? And Diddy's answer, it sent chills down Usher's spine. He just chuckled and said, same thing they did to me, it's how the game works. That was it. That was the last real conversation Usher ever had with him. After that, I backed off, he said. I didn't want my name tied to any of it. But after watching what happened to Justin, I couldn't keep quiet anymore. Then Usher dropped a final reveal that left the courtroom stunned, something he'd never shared before. In 2018, he got a call from a blocked number. The voice on the other end said just one thing, tell him to keep his mouth shut or we'll shut it for him. That threat wasn't just chilling, it was personal and it was real. When asked who he believed was behind that threatening phone call, Usher didn't hesitate. He looked straight at the defense table and said, I think you know. Then came the moment that cracked everything wide open. The night Usher said finally broke whatever trust he still had left in Diddy. A night that, until now, had never been spoken about publicly. According to Usher's testimony, it happened in 2002 at a private party in a hidden estate tucked deep in the Hollywood Hills. But Usher made it clear this wasn't just a party. It felt more like a ritual than a celebration, he told the jury. He said the guest list included young artists, fresh faces, and models, most of them under the impression they were being invited for some type of career opportunity. Diddy told me I was going to meet a big-time producer from Europe, Usher said. That's the only reason I showed up. But once he got there, things didn't add up. There were no producers, no music executives, just dim lights, security at every door, and this strange vibe hanging in the air, he recalled. Phones were taken at the entrance. No photos, no contact with the outside world. Then came the contracts, handed out one by one to the guests. They called them NDAs, Usher said, but I'd seen plenty of NDAs before. These were different, way more aggressive, way more threatening. It wasn't just about protecting privacy. It was about locking people into silence, and Usher said that night changed how he looked at Diddy forever. The vibe was off, Usher told the court, and for the first time during his testimony, his voice cracked. There were people there who weren't artists. They weren't execs, he continued. That's when I realized they were just watching. He went on to say that he recognized several famous faces that night. Big names, powerful people, some of whom had never been publicly tied to Diddy in any way. But Usher stopped short of naming names, saying only, if this trial keeps going, others will speak up. Then came the most disturbing part of the night. Usher said that when he tried to leave early, a man he didn't recognize blocked him and led him into a private side room. Inside, Diddy was waiting. He looked at me and said, "You're not ready yet. You still think this is about music. This is bigger than that." Usher left that night and never went back to another Diddy-hosted event again. But his testimony didn't stop there. He shifted focus to Diddy's business dealings, not just with him, but with multiple artists signed to Bad Boy. For the first time, Usher submitted internal emails and contract drafts as evidence. He revealed that as a teenager, he signed a development deal that tied him to 5 albums, while giving away full control of his masters until he turned 35. "I didn't understand what I was signing," Usher said. "I thought I was chasing my dream, but really, I was signing it away." "I didn't know what I was signing," Usher admitted, his voice low. "I just wanted to sing. That's all I cared about." But what started as a dream turned into a financial nightmare. And Usher wasn't alone. He went on to expose how other artists got caught in the same trap. He mentioned names like Carl Thomas, Total, Black Rob, and the late Craig Mack. According to Usher, Diddy had a formula. Bring artists in close, offer mentorship, give them just enough spotlight, and then cut them off once they stopped being useful or obedient. Then came the money bombshell. Usher revealed that a private accountant had once sent him a spreadsheet, a breakdown of royalties he'd never received. The total, over $4.3 million in unpaid earnings. He took it straight to Diddy, and Diddy's response? He laughed, Usher said. He told me, "If you knew what was really owed to you, you wouldn't sleep at night." That hit hard. Court documents backed Usher's claims, showing that several artists had taken silent settlements, accepting small payouts just to win back basic rights, like using their own names or performing their own songs again. Then came one of the biggest revelations yet. Usher had tried to organize a secret meeting in 2011. The goal? To gather other artists and confront the system they'd all been caught in together. But that meeting never happened because someone tipped Diddy off. That's what Usher said shut down the secret meeting he tried to organize. But what he shared next shook the courtroom even harder. Usher testified that he once witnessed Diddy order the destruction of demo tapes and video footage, materials that belonged to an artist who had threatened to speak out. The implication was clear. Erase the evidence, silence the voice, and what happened to that artist? He vanished, Usher said. Nobody knows where he is now, but I remember his voice and I remember that he was scared. The courtroom went still. You could feel the tension. Then came the final part of Usher's testimony, the most emotional of all. When asked why he hadn't spoken up sooner, Usher broke down. "Because I thought I owed him," he said, choking back emotion. "I thought if I stayed quiet, I could move on. I could still be grateful, but the truth is, you can't be grateful for a lie." He admitted the guilt had eaten away at him for years and watching younger artists walk the same dangerous path he once did. And for a long time, he didn't know how to stop it without setting fire to everything he'd built. It was always about leverage, Usher said. And Diddy? He had all of it. Then he revealed one last detail. In 2016, around the time a now infamous Drink Champs clip resurfaced online, things behind the scenes started shifting again. And Usher knew the past wasn't going to stay buried forever. Usher said he tried one last time to confront Diddy directly, to look him in the eye and demand answers, but he never got the chance. Diddy's legal team blocked every attempt. Then Usher shared something deeply personal, a journal entry he'd never shown anyone before. He wrote it the night he walked away from Diddy's mentorship for good. It read, "I survived Puffy, but did the kid in me survive? I still don't know." The courtroom was silent. No movement, no whispers, just raw stillness. And then Usher stood tall and faced the court. His final words weren't just for the jury. They were for everyone watching, especially the younger generation of artists who once idolized the very people now on trial. "This isn't just about one man," Usher said. "It's about a whole system, a system that told kids like me to stay quiet, follow orders, and never question the hands that fed us." His voice didn't shake now. It was strong, steady, ready. "But I'm here now, and I'm not afraid anymore. Not for myself, because I've already lived through it. I'm doing this deed for the ones who didn't." At that moment, no one moved, no one spoke. The courtroom was frozen, thus stunned by the weight of what had just been said. What started as a racketeering and trafficking case against one man had exploded into something far bigger, a long overdue reckoning for decades of silence in the music industry. What the world never knew until now was that right after the release of his hit album 8701 in 2001, at the absolute peak of his early fame, Usher vanished for a full week. To the public, it looked like a break. Industry folks whispered that he was just laying low, recharging after a brutal tour schedule, but in court, Usher revealed the real story, and it shocked everyone. He had checked himself into a private mental health facility in Northern California, under a fake name, no entourage, no cameras, just silence. According to his testimony, he was battling a mental breakdown triggered by trauma that went all the way back to his teenage years living under Diddy's roof. Usher admitted the panic attacks had started after he turned 20. They'd hit out of nowhere. Flashing lights, big crowds, even certain songs would set him off. And for a long time, he didn't know why. Then came the moment everything unraveled. He was staying at a hotel in New York, the same building that used to host some of Diddy's infamous private parties. And that night, as he walked down the hallway, "I smelled it," Usher said. "The same brand of candles he used to burn. That was all it took. My whole body froze," he told the court, "like I was 14 again." That scent, that small forgotten detail, dragged all the memories back. The fear, the confusion, the silence he'd carried for years, and suddenly Usher realized he'd never really escaped it, not completely. "I started shaking. I couldn't breathe." Usher's voice trembled as he described the night it all came crashing down. His team rushed him to a private clinic where he was placed under observation for 5 days. No press, no announcements, just quiet emergency care behind closed doors. And what he told the in-house psychiatrist during that stay? It had never been spoken out loud until now. "I told him I saw things no kid should ever see," Usher said to the jury. "I lived in a world where power meant silence and survival meant smiling through it." Then came the line that floored the courtroom. That house wasn't just a crash pad. It was a place where dreams were sold, but your soul was the price. The silence in the room was deafening. Usher testified that he was officially diagnosed with PTSD, a revelation that shocked not just those in court, but fans around the world who were watching from the outside. The man they had seen at the top of the charts had been suffering in silence for years. He told the jury it took almost 2 years of therapy before he could sleep through the night without the nightmares. And while he never publicly named others who might have been through similar trauma, Usher hinted that several young artists with ties to Diddy had either vanished from the spotlight or suffered emotional breakdowns of their own. But they never talked about it, he said, too scared, too broken. Then came the gut punch. "I was lucky. I had the money to get help, but some of them didn't. One of them overdosed, another tried to take his own life, and a third, he just vanished." Usher's words hit like a punch to the gut. When asked why he kept this buried for more than 2 decades, he didn't hesitate, didn't blink. Because in 2001, nobody would have believed me, he said. Puffy was untouchable, and me, I was just the kid with the voice. He let that sit for a beat. But now the world's finally ready to listen. The courtroom didn't move. It wasn't just the confession, it was everything behind it. The weight, the years, the silence, and the implication that for every platinum plaque, every Grammy acceptance speech, every packed stadium filled with screaming fans, there might have been a silent war happening behind the scenes. A young artist smiling for cameras while breaking inside. Usher had been that kid, and now standing tall in a federal courtroom, he wasn't just telling his story, he was opening the floodgates. This wasn't about revenge. This was about truth, about finally breaking the silence that had swallowed so many. He looked out, his voice firm. I'm speaking now, not just for me, but for every voice that got drowned out by the music. And with that, Usher ended his testimony, not as the pop star the world once knew, but as a man who survived what most never saw.